I guess it's really upsetting, and it feels hurtful that people see me as a threat. That because I look Chinese or from East Asia, therefore I must have the coronavirus. And so it's quite hurtful to think that people are thinking that of me when I go into a room or when I go onto public transport.
My heart just sunk. Why are they being racist to us? We don't even have the coronavirus.
If you're from China, I need to know.
This was the first time that I've ever felt I was being treated differently for being Asian.
Do you guys view us as expendable?
I'd like to begin by providing an update on what we are doing to minimize the impact of the Chinese virus on our nation.
It's very, very aware now that if we stand on a tram or a train or a bus and we're coughing or sniffing, people looking at us. So I feel very conscious. And some of us have started to change our work hours, so we're not travelling during peak hours, just to avoid this kind of very negative and quite hostile environment.
The fear is overtaking the actual facts on the ground. When I talk to business owners and entrepreneurs in Flushing, they are very concerned about the panic and the fear that is gripping not only the entire United States. It's making people feel very emotionally vulnerable.
In this situation, sometimes it's easy to move into perspectives in which there tends to be discrimination, there tends to be violation of human rights, there tends to be stigma on innocent people just because of their ethnicity or whatever. I think it's very important to avoid these.
People start to, think, oh, you're Chinese, and are you actually that careful of your hygiene?
I guess it's really hurtful because a lot of Chinese families have been here for a long time, for generations, right? And truthfully, I think our risk of catching this coronavirus is the same as everybody else in the city, in the country. So why single us out?
Videos and messages from Chinese citizens leaking through the censorship suggested the situation was much worse than what the regime was reporting. Today, the coronavirus is impacting over 100 countries around the world. Billions of lives are at risk. And from what is said by the Chinese Communist Party, this allegedly started spontaneously in a seafood market in Wuhan, China. Wuhan is the capital of Hubei province, the largest city in central China. Huanan Seafood Market is located in Jianghan district of Wuhan City. At this point, Huanan Seafood Market being the source of the epidemic became an official conclusion. A few days later, however, a report from the journal Science published online challenged that story. The report cited a paper in The Lancet and questioned whether Wuhan's novel coronavirus pneumonia could not have originated at the market.
Of African people in the southern Chinese city Guangzhou were driven out by their landlords and had to stay on the streets. Another video shows many Africans dragging their luggage aimlessly through the streets of Guangzhou. One of them says, "We are just walking on the road. They can't give us a house. They can't give us a hotel, and they cannot provide a place we can stay." Chinese media have only reported about testing people from abroad. They haven't talked about testing locals.
Enough is enough is enough. We don't care if we don't care if you've bribed our presidents. We don't care if our president is brotherhood. We don't care. Enough is enough. The Chinese authorities had kicked out hundreds and hundreds of Africans living in Guangzhou in China over coronavirus fears. Now, the worst thing is our brothers and sisters have been living on the streets for days, and a lot of them, their passports have been taken. They can't enter supermarkets. They can't enter hospitals. It's super cold in China right now. China must explain. China must explain. And, about 1 million Chinese, at least those documented, are currently living across Africa. Because we have to understand the Chinese are a wicked people. I mean, someone who eats bats and turtles, little baby, I saw a video, little baby turtles, and is just, but they also really look down on us. They're also extremely racist. Again, they think we're monkeys. We've seen so many of their videos where they got young children to say, I'm a black monster. Basically, the Chinese word for the N-word, We're sleeping, we're kind, we're almost too emotional. But when the switch flips, it's a different story. And they should ask, our former colonizers. That's why they had to, they took away the stick approach and came with the dangling apple approach. Stories for other days.
Wake up, Africa! To my fellow African diaspora, a very good day to all of you. My name is Ambassador Arikana Chihombori Kwao. Over the past couple of days, I've received many messages, emails, phone calls, and video clippings of the abuse that is being meted to our fellow African diaspora living in China. I've watched in horror Africans roaming the streets of China with their possessions after being evicted out of their homes simply because they're Africans. I've watched in horror Africans roaming the streets with their suitcases and at times with nothing at all, roaming the streets after being thrown out of their hotel rooms simply because they're Africans. I have watched in horror women carrying babies roaming the streets of China with nowhere to go after being thrown out of their homes simply because they're Africans. I've heard many stories of Africans who are married to Chinese being separated from their husbands or wives simply because they were Africans. I've heard stories about Africans being forced to take COVID-19 tests simply because they're Africans. In many cases, these individuals did not meet criteria for testing. This situation is not acceptable. It is wrong, and it will not be tolerated. To President Xi, I say, while you have enjoyed good relationships with all the African leaders, it is precisely because of that you should do the right thing. As we speak, President Xi, may I remind you that we have over 10 million Chinese residing in Africa, where we have welcomed them with open arms. We have allowed the Chinese to establish themselves to marry Africans and live happily ever after in our Africa. Why can't Africans be awarded the same welcome that we have given to millions of your citizens? What is being done to Africans in China is deplorable.
They don't speak the truth even to their own people. Everybody's questioning China. People are staying away from Chinese people. You have got a country calling racism while they are kicking Africans out of their homes in China. So who is racist here? Chinese are living in Africa, and you are kicking Africans out of their homes in China and accusing them, those who are not infected, of being the ones who bring this coronavirus to China. Coronavirus came from China. It came from Chinese people. Whether it came from some stupid person eating a bat or whether it came from a lab which is down the road from the Wuhan, a country of people whose government don't speak the truth, a country of people who, I'm telling you now, for the majority dislike Africans. They do not like black people. They don't even like black Chinese. And there is more than one reason as to why that they are in Africa, okay? They are in Africa not just for your gold, not just for your minerals, not just for these things, okay? By the year 2050, the population of China is going to be so much so that there is not going to be enough room left in China for them. They want your country and they don't want you in it. A vaccine? What vaccine? They haven't created a vaccine. No country has created a vaccine yet. There is none. It's because we want a vaccine. The countries are in a battle around the world to see who will create the first vaccine. There is no vaccine. So whatever the hell they have sent to Africa, whatever they have sent there is not a vaccine for coronavirus. We gave you HIV. China's already there. They don't just want all the gold and all that stuff. They're there throwing money at your leaders, billions and billions of dollars, okay? They're giving out loans, which on the surface look fantastic. Long-term loans, small interest to build infrastructures and buildings and things like that are supposed to get a return so that they can repay those loans. Those things that they have given your country money for will never generate enough money for those things to be paid back, so you will forever be indebted to China. You will be forever indebted to China. And they'll just move on in and they'll take over. Because if coronavirus doesn't kill you, This fake vaccine will. If that doesn't, well, Ebola's coming again too.
All Chinese nationals should leave the country with immediate effect, Kenyan government. Member of Parliament in Kenya, Honourable Moses Kuria has ordered all Chinese nationals to evacuate the African country immediately. This statement comes after news broke that the Chinese communities were harassing Africans living in their country. A video which circulated showed how people of African descent were evicted from their houses and sleeping on the streets. These Africans were also evicted from hotels and their apartments, despite payment of rent. The Chinese communities accused the Africans of bringing coronavirus to China. The Member of Parliament Honourable Moses Kuria has suggested that these Chinese nationals in the African country should be evacuated as soon as possible. It is only fair that all Chinese nationals leave the country with immediate effect. How do you blame Africans for the coronavirus you manufactured in Wuhan laboratory? Go back home, he stated.